right, so we're almost there. We just finished adding, subtracting, or adding decimals. Now we're going to work on subtracting decimals. So if you don't have that much room, don't worry, because it's basically the same process. All right, so we're going to write a little bit about the difference, but there's just not that much difference between adding and subtracting. So draw a line, okay? And let's go ahead and talk about subtracting. All right, so here's what's going to happen. The process is the same process as adding, except the number with the greatest value goes on top, and you subtract instead of add. So we're going to follow the same steps. All right, we're going to follow the same steps as adding decimals, except the number with the greatest value goes on top, and you subtract instead. All right, so let me show you what I mean. Let's use the same numbers, the same exact numbers, except if it's subtraction, we're going to have our greater value is the first number that we have to look at. Remember, because there's 3 ones in 3 and 21 hundredths, it does have the greater value between these two numbers. Sometimes people see that this number has 3 digits and this number has 4 digits, and they think, well, the one with the most digits should be the biggest number. But with decimals, that's not how it works, because remember, these decimal place values mean the number has smaller and smaller pieces. All right, so look at the whole number to the left of the decimal point to determine which one is the bigger number, or look at the largest decimal place value. So we're going to do the same exact thing. Step 1, stack decimal points and place values. We have 2 numbers, so we're going to stack the decimal points. And like I said on this, the same process as adding, except the number with the greatest value goes on top. So last time we didn't really have to worry about which number went on top. This time we do, because we're subtracting. So the number with the greatest value goes on top. So now we have stacked our decimal points and we have stacked our place values. So stack decimal points and place values, we've done that. We made sure the number with the greatest value is the one on top. All right, so we're setting up a subtraction problem. Not only that, let's go ahead and add a face to save a place to make this easier to look at. All right, so now I have an emoji 0. Now I know what I'm taking 7 away from. I'm taking 7 away from 0. Before it was just a blank, and taking 7 away from a blank doesn't make as much sense in your brain because you've never subtracted from a blank before. All right, so now that we have the emoji 0, we can actually start to think about subtraction the normal way, where we're borrowing, right? Okay, so we're going to ignore the decimal point, and this time subtract like normal. So let's pretend this is 3,210 minus 1,237. So first thing we're going to have to do is some borrowing. All right, so this turns into a 10. This turns into a 0. 10 minus 7 is 3. All right, 0 minus 3. I can't do 0 minus 3, so I must borrow again. So I'm going to borrow from the tenths place, and that makes 10 hundredths minus 3 hundredths, which is 7 hundredths. I cannot subtract 2 tenths from 1 tenth, so I must borrow again, and that will make 11 tenths minus 2 tenths. That gives me 9 tenths. And then finally, 2 wholes minus 1 whole gives me 1 whole. Step 4, same thing as before. Make sure at the very end you drop that decimal point into the answer. All right? So now we have the answer 1 and 973 thousandths. And that's how you subtract decimals.